Right. Let me tell you one principle of counterterrorism and psychological warfare. Any terrorist that has been apprehended, for the most part, as a rule of thumb, for example, Carlos, not only served intelligence of the Soviets, he served intelligence for the Mossad, for the French, who questionably called him BND. So within this game of counterterrorism, which is really a game, a very sick game, we create what is called, under Kissinger, strategic tensions. We create strategic tensions so we have a legitimate reason to go into a country to either invade, suppress, or extract whatever mineral rights. Now, let me give you an understanding. Let me say it very clearly. Osama bin Laden was on more than one payroll. He was not only the CIA payroll, British payroll, but guess whose other payroll he was on, Alex Jones?
The Israelis.
Take a wild guess. You got it. And he had relationships with Jews in the Middle East, in the diamond business, and Israel will go absolutely nuts. But the New York Times article years ago even reported how a lot of his own money came out of the Jewish diamond dealers in Tel Aviv, and his mother, Yemeni, usually would probably be Jewish. But I don't want to get into this entire issue other than the fact that people have to understand, when I went after Noriega, which also cost my life because he hunted me down, accused me of being an assassin, whether it's right or wrong, let's not worry about that. But he served our intelligence, he served Latin American intelligence, he served Cuban intelligence, he served many intelligence. For the same reason, when we went after Saddam Hussein, by the way, I do have to correct you, Saddam Hussein was not executed, with all due respect, Alex Jones. We never execute a leader of a country, and particularly with Bush Jr., who's a liar and a coward, by the way.
So you're saying that's all fake, too?
He was not executed. What you saw, in effect, was a picture of how so-called execution through a camera of somebody's little camera. But he is probably somewhere in Central Asia. And Bush Jr. can go in front of a federal court, and if he can swear that without holding Cheney's hands the same way he did the commission, I will be surprised.
Well, sir, that's like the old king's rule where kings don't kill kings. That's why twice.
That's exactly
That's
true.
why twice with Napoleon they put him on islands.
Exactly. Idi Amin, I worked against Idi Amin. He killed 187,000 people. We didn't kill him. We put him in Saudi Arabia. He was playing poetry. He was writing poetry. He was playing golf. Noriega was never killed. He was sent off to France. He has a chateau in France. It goes on and on and on. Osama bin Laden was already dead. We used him. All of these so-called villains are used for national security purposes, and the vehicle is always a psychological operation to mobilize the American public through the most cynical of all statements, national security, freedom of speech, and in fact what happens is there's suppression. So the inherent paradox of what our country does to ourselves will come back to bite the government repeatedly, because the American government will not tolerate. The American people will not tolerate.
Doctor, this is too incredible, and the time we've got only about 35 minutes with you. I don't want to bump Lord Moncton, who's popping in, but I'm getting really tempted to do it here in a minute.
Okay.
But no. Stay there, sir, because
I am here.
But I mean, let's go back. Let's go back here, because every time you mention something, it opens a whole data mine and my own brain up.
Yes.
The four Al-Qaeda leaders.
Student at school. You must have been restless at school, Alex.
I was restless, but every time you mention a point, then I can see all the data that's public, not to mention all the data, inside data you have, but it's just all confirmed. When I was on RT, International TV, a few days ago, they showed the four top Al-Qaeda people. And three of them, Gaddan, Alaki, and one other, they admit all born in the U.S., and then I know their ledgers. Anwar al-Awlaki, Fox News admits, secretly at the Pentagon, 2 months after 9/11, dining with the Secretary of the Army. He runs the Fort Hood, Patsy attacks, the underwear bomber, the Times Square, the shoe bomber. They get the drugged Muttalib on the plane. I mean, this is all admitted. And the State Department did.
Correct.
I mean, what's crazy is But let me just have this final point.
You have to get to the central premise, my dear friend.
No, but here's my point. Adam Gaddan is the grandson of the former head of the ADL who was arrested for beating up Arabs outside mosque. He hated him so much, and the way he gets them is by dressing up in that clown suit with the beard. Here is this ADL grandson uploading with the Intel Center in the same Al-Qaeda logo, their logo, and Wired Magazine confirmed they'd made the video. I mean, you're bringing up bin Laden working for Israel. I don't think people get what you're saying here. They have to...
I'm not saying he's working. I'm saying that basically he had been funded by, diamond dealers. That was in the New York Times. And I'm sure he worked for many other intelligence services, including the Brits and others, because in that game, and this is speculation on that part, in that game of counterterrorism, which unfortunately is a game, it is always service of multiple masters in order to justify what they do, what national governments do. But bin Laden was always dealing in the diamond business. I believe his mother was Jewish. She's Yemeni. And, the bin Laden family is still part of the Carlyle group. Take a look if they hadn't been on it, or are they still part of it? You can look it up.
No, sir. London Guardian headline, September 11th, 2001. It had already, September 12th, that all these top brass and Bush people were meeting at the Carlyle group meeting with the bin Ladens there that day. That's what I mean. There's all these insane connections.
That's correct. It's all connections. So basically the question is, how do you break these connections, and how does the American public stop this nonsensical, dangerous, cynical disruption, as you call it? It's destroying the fibers of our country, and the answer is you have to get out on the streets and start insisting on freedom of speech, insisting that you have to organize, that the American public is not stupid. They don't need to have their homework to protect the country, and they have to demand the truth. And they have to force their legislators, most of whom are cowardly, because whether you're Republican or Democrat, remember the dynamics of a legislator is the panderer. He first says to you very nicely, oh, please vote for me, this is what I can do. Well, it's like saying a physician like me, if I were a medical student, I go up to you, Alex, and I said, listen, I want you to pay for the fact that I'm going to be a doctor, but I'm not a doctor right now, but I promise you I'm going to be a doctor. And you're going to say, what are you, crazy? You haven't shown anything that you can do to be a doctor. Well, that's what Obama did. He said, look, I can run this country, but I've never run anything.
All right, Dr. Pieczenik, we've got to break. We've got to break. And again, I hate to interrupt because everything you're saying is so important, but then I've got all of these other questions I want to bring up to you, and I want to get into the solutions. I want to spend a lot of time on that. There's also a lot of breaking news. CBS News is confirming the president has now given an interview that will be played later this week, that they are not going to release the photos. And they say, Obama said the risk of releasing outweighed the benefits. Conspiracy theorists around the world will just claim the photos are doctored anyway. And there is a real risk that releasing the photos will only serve to inflame public opinion in the Middle East. And he went on to attack conspiracy theorists. This has been released by CBS News, that Obama is responding to conspiracy theorists. That is people that don't buy his propaganda. I want to talk about this when we come back, but also, more importantly, something I've learned that you've written and talked about, the move towards a police state martial law situation, because there is a full court press, ABC, CBS, CNN saying, contrary to the war on terror being over, we are going to set up federally trained police in grocery stores everywhere, and that everyone is going to have hands stuck down their pants. They're doing this to break our will. We'll find out from Dr. Pieczenik what it means. Do you want to learn? It's torture when a guest like Dr. Pieczenik is on, because it's so informative. And I've done all this research. When I'm hearing him talking, I want to say, yes, you're right. Folks, it's true. In fact, here's all this public evidence. I mean, he'll say one line of information, and then another. And each one, when I've just immersed myself in this, it makes my head burn. Not in a bad way. It makes me want to jump out of my chair and just see people come out of their trance. The people perish for lack of knowledge. Sir, what do you make of Obama? They've now released a transcript of a 60 Minutes interview he just did today, responding to conspiracy theorists. Now he's responding to the birth certificate. I mean, this shows how weak they are. And now they're not going to release a photo because any Photoshop expert can put it in a computer and scan it. They put out whether you believe he was born in Hawaii or not, the experts have now spoken. The birth certificate has been altered. Did they do it on purpose to make the debate continue? I don't think so.
Well,
I mean,
let's get it straight. What happens when you attack the government, whether it's under Bush Jr. or Obama, and you're seeing Obama use it, but He's not as effective as Bush Jr. was, because Bush Jr. had more CIA operatives there who had a better history of psyops. The truth is, when you don't know what to say, you immediately denigrate people like me. In particular, is what he's talking about, people like you, Alex, and all of your audience, by saying we're conspiracy theorists. Well, you know, the beauty of life is that there are people who are trying to do nasty things. And whether we call it conspiracy theorist or not, or he says it's silliness, that doesn't mitigate the fact that there's truth. And a man who is not able to tell the truth or come to terms with the truth then uses these very flippant words like conspiracy theorist, silly people, birthist, or truist. These are code words in order to make sure that you're put into a corner where you can't say anything and you're categorized. That's a very easy way to delegitimize you in psychological warfare. But unfortunately, the president really is not very smart. Contrary to his own self-esteem, and they're going to listen to this in the White House, he's not very bright. And I'm saying that because he never really had an education in psychology. He never really had an education in the real world, how it works, other than the political world of corruption, deception, denial, and lie. But he doesn't really know how to effectively use it. More importantly, neither do anybody around him. That's why the storyline and this atrocity and ridiculousness, if you want to talk of the president's own word, silliness, of the body of Osama bin Laden that's been dead for 9 years, but he can't show you a picture of it, is so absurd, it flashes back to him. It's what we call a blowback. The president now is desperate.
Well, that's what I'm saying, sir. Doctor, I got to stop you again. I got to stop you because this is I'm having an epiphany here. Exactly. I think this proves what you're saying. They've got the power, but they've been immersed in their lies so long that they're the ones that are delusional. Didn't they know claiming they threw him in the ocean would make people not believe them? Don't they know not releasing a photo is the prima facie evidence? I mean, they look so guilty.
My dear friend Alex, let me tell you something about you and the American public. We're a lot smarter than our politicians. This is not being grandiose. I'm just telling you. The American public has to understand that we, the American public, are a lot smarter than our politicians because, number one, we understand real life. Number two, we're used to television shows. Number three, we have silly movies. We're used to reality shows. This is a reality show that makes no sense and is very pathetic. Because, unfortunately, it's costing us millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, and the actor is not a very good actor. Because, number one, he's not good at acting. You look at him as a teleprompter, he's pathetic. He looks like a zombie without any emotion. Secondly, he really has no intellectual capacity to analyze or question what really is happening, despite the fact he said he's from Harvard Law, very Harvard Law. Well, that doesn't make for a very effective president or a good person.
Another BS-filled lawyer. Stay there, Dr. Pieczenik. Back in 60 seconds. We've only got 20 minutes left with him. This is amazing, ladies and gentlemen.